Thank you.
Cameron.
Calling of the roll, Mayor Eady,
Present.
Reeve Eamon,
Present.
Councillor Koulis,
Present.
Councillor Evans,
Present.
Councillor Hines,
Present.
Councillor Jemison,
Present.
Councillor Sidney.
Present.
We have a quorum, Mayor Eady.
Thank you. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof? Hearing none. Okay. So the first motion is that the minutes of the regular meeting of council held electronically on May 12, 2020 be adopted as printed. Mover, please. Councillor Jamison, seconded by
Andrew.
Councillor Evans. Any questions or comments on the minutes of that meeting? Okay, hearing none. All in favor? Carried. Okay. That the communication from the Corporation of the Township of Boncher Valley dated May the 6th, 2020 concerning the Renfrew County official plan be received and endorsed. Over, please. Councillor Hines, seconded by Reeve Eamon. Again, any questions or comments on this? Reeve Eamon.
Yeah, I think we have to endorse this because you're going to see some communication from the county in a couple of days, but essentially, this was imposed, as is the right of the minister, but one of the significant flaws is that there is no appeal process once it is imposed, or proclaimed, sorry. And there are several flaws, and again, after County Council tomorrow, you'll see a report that will show several weaknesses in the language that the province has put into the official plan.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. Okay. That the communication from the City of Pembroke dated May the 6th, 2020 concerning the Emergency Measures and Civic Protection Act on local flexibility be received. Mover, please. Councillor Jamison, seconded by Councillor Hines. Again, any questions or comments? Councillor Hines.
Yeah, I just have a comment, and I take it when I read this. This is the proposal, or they're looking to open up and let various areas that are not don't have big numbers to go ahead and advance opening into the next stage. Is that the gist of this? Anybody?
Yeah, this is Kim. That is correct. It was circulated throughout lower tier municipalities for support, but that's exactly right. It's looking to regionalize the reopening, I guess, mandates of the province, depending on the severity of caseloads.
Okay. If I could just finish, we're just receiving it, but I am opposed to doing that. I think it's very confusing, and I think that we've done everything as a province so far, and I happen to agree with the Premier in this case that we're all in this together, and we need to be careful, because if the next county are way ahead of us and people come to this county, then we're subject to that, to the virus and to them bringing it and spreading it here. So I see this as a provincial And I think already it's a little fragmented in that the different provinces are different at different stages, and that's certainly shown in their numbers that maybe they weren't ready for that. So I don't mind receiving it, but I am not in favor of it.
Yes, thank you. I think what Pembroke is doing is they're following the lead of Kingston, which initiated
Yeah.
this train of thought about 3 weeks ago. And I agree that it may not be the best solution because each area is at a different stage of recovery on its own. But when you take a look at the infection in Renfrew County at this point, most of them have come from outside of our community, people that work outside of the Renfrew County community and then reside here or have visited here. And I think that is definitely an indicator that bringing more people in quickly would be a problem. Now, having said that, I think, I raised it at the health unit meeting today, at the board meeting, that I think the health unit and or municipal governments have to start considering how they're going to open their economy. And so that means the messaging and education on how you open your business, and then also to the residents on safety. It has to be constant. You can't just hand out a placard May 27th and hope that everybody's going to remember the rules through until the end of July. So I think there has to be some consideration for it and start planning for it. It has to be backstopped by the province. And so I think I understand what they're doing, and I agree at an intellectual level. But I think before it happens, there has to be some effort made to prepare the residents plus the visitors so that everybody has the same expectations as to behavior. I agree with you. I think it's premature.
Any other questions or comments? I also agree with Councillor Hines very strongly, actually. I don't think it's, if it was left up to individual municipalities and start cherry picking here and there, that you could get a lot of people in a lot of trouble. I'll give you an example myself. I found out there was a barber open in Pembroke. I might run up there tomorrow morning. And
can I go with you?
That's not good. So at the end of the day, I'll also be voting against the stuff. Okay, we'll go for the vote then.
Can I just ask a question, Your Worship?
Yeah.
So when we receive this, what goes back to the city of Pembroke, that we received it, but we are not in favor of it? I mean, I think that's important to express that. I don't know how the other 4 councillors feel, but I am really opposed to the idea of it.
I'd have to ask Clerk Bulmer what would happen to this if it's either approved or turned down.
The motion before you is it's just to be received. So if it's received, no action, no further actions taken. I wouldn't suggest not receiving. It's just like opening mail by receiving. It's council's direction and discretion if they want communication to flow out of it from this council to the city of Pembroke or to Government of Ontario.
So really, we receive it and nothing happens. That's what I gather. So I'll ask for the vote then. All in favor?
Receiving it, Joe.
For
Unanimous.
receiving it, yeah.
Okay.
So are we able to write a letter then to the province that we agree with the Premier that we're not interested in moving to this kind of here, there, and all over? I can understand where the city of Kingston is, but you know, they start getting an influx of people there. But anyway, I feel very strongly about it.
That's nothing that's on the agenda. Wish something I've done. Yes, there'd be a procedure there to introduce a motion, and it can be done under new or unfinished business. Okay,
Okay.
think I'm right on that? Okay, next is that the minutes from the Planning Advisory Committee meeting held May the 5th, 2020 be received. Over, please. Councillor Hines, seconded by Councillor Evans. Turn it over to Councillor Hines for her report.
This is our meeting from May the 5th, and we did have a council meeting on May the 12th, which we addressed several things that came up here. The outdoor patio at Coco Jerry's, we're still working on that because they did ask for a waiver of the fee. That has gone to finance, and finance helped with that. And also we had asked staff to discuss the timing of the opening, because I take it tonight we're going to hear what is going on with the deficiencies in repairs for downtown, and that may affect the timing of the setting up of this patio. And further, the committee was concerned about what the owner would be doing in regard to COVID-19 and distancing and such. So that's kind of outstanding at this time. We discussed Huntergate, which, as I said, that agreement or that the application was going to the county has already been addressed at the our council meeting of May the 12th, as is the art factory. And you will remember that the planner did review with council the site plan agreement and the various conditions and such that were in place. So that went through at our previous council and is reflected in the minutes of that. And then under new and unfinished business, we're just talking about A-frame signs. We don't have anything to bring forward at this time. We spoke about the county official plan, and that Mayor Edie had sent a letter to Mr. Elms, the manager of community and planning and development for the ministry. And basically they have recommended that plan or condoned it, whatever you want to say. And at this time, there's no appeal to it, but should, you'll see in the last line there that the town is currently working on an assessment management plan that will provide us with some future growth forecasts. And then once that's done, we may be able to go through the county and change the numbers if we wished to do that in the official plan. We had some property standards issues that were brought forward, and the staff and the bylaw enforcement officer have addressed those. And I can tell you that in regard to that specific property, an order was issued and the work has been, I don't know that it's completed, but they certainly bit of an issue and dangerous. And then we just spoke about where the application was in regard to ongoing developments, which was the Lapine Apartments. So we were just waiting on the date to fall that they could move on with that, whether there would be any appeals or not. And under financial, there were no notable issues that we had to address. The committee also was interested where the tower was, what was happening with that at the fairgrounds, and it was explained, as Mayor Adie explained last week, that they've moved on from that site, and the committee was also as disappointed as in the same expression that the mayor had at the council meeting on May the 12th. Our next meeting is next Tuesday, June the 2nd.
Okay. Any questions or comments? Vimo.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just 9.2 on page 4, the second last sentence where it says, Mr. Elms addressed this note of concern by indicating that neither the official plan or the town official plan or static documents can be revised or amended any time should circumstances arise. So imposing false numbers into the plan, which weren't necessary,
Yeah.
and then saying, go ahead and generate some cost and effort to amend it when and if you get different numbers. So it's a pretty tone deaf response, and somewhat surprising from that ministry, given the assurances that they were ready to work with people and to change things and make it easier for everybody. That doesn't make it easier.
You're so very right, and that's the word I was looking for, imposing, which is exactly what the ministry did. Like, here it is, that's what you're living with for now. But I mean, that's our due diligence to look at that asset management plan, and if we feel that we need different numbers, I think that we can approach that through planning or as council. We have to go through the county, I take it. Is that correct, Revimo? Yes, through the county, and then they put it up, but all that time and effort. But we'll just see where we get to, and if we need to have those numbers increase so that indeed we can expand if we have to, that's probably a good problem to have.
Just maybe a little clarification. Mr. Elms, I had phoned him and had a nice long chat with him actually. And that second last statement, I asked him if he would give us something in writing stating that the county official plan could be changed if there was a proper, if we could improve it, I guess, or prove the need of it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why that statement is in there. The province has already accepted the county official plan. And in order now to change anything, you would have to go through the county. So as of today, if we need further clarification on this, maybe a full report on this one particular thing from our town planner might be a good thing in the future, especially when it comes to when we get these results back from our asset management plan we're putting together, and the other things that a lot of development fees, et cetera, et cetera. So but that's where that.
Yeah, I think that is the role, I guess, that the planning advisory committee feel that they will take once the town has the opportunity to review that asset management plan, and then maybe direct the planning advisory committee to do that when it comes to the planning part of it.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried. Okay, that the minutes from the Administration, Economic Development and Tourism Committee meeting held May the 7th, 2020 be received. Mover, please. Councilor Jamison, seconded by Revimo. Turn it over to Councilor Jamison for the report.
Okay, so this was our meeting on May 7th, and so we were just trying to work through the issues that there were some different options for dealing with COVID-19. We talked about the budget and what monies we do need to spend still and what we won't need to spend because of COVID-19. We worked on that. And we also, you're going to see the report on the RED grant is coming up next shortly. So I'll just skip over that part. So we had a couple of events that we canceled, which was pretty much all of our events. So the Red Blacks Football Community Day has been canceled. The Bluegrass Festival, Craft Beer and Food Truck Festival. So those have all been canceled. And then our EDO, she was working on our website, cleaning it up, making a few changes. And of course, everybody knows that she actually had her baby a little bit early. So now we're trying to just keep it going without her. And that's about it.
Okay, any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, all in favor? Carried. Okay. Let the minutes from the Finance Committee meeting held May the 15th, 2020 be received. Mover, please. Vivimo, seconded by Councillor Hines. Okay, a few things on this report. Number one, on page 2, 2020 tax rate, which we'll be voting on later. The debenture for Highway 60 downtown and other projects, again, that's something that I could probably have our treasurer comment on, but basically the discussion was on it that because of the interest rates, the way they are now is the time to be borrowing the money. We have to borrow when it's from the original numbers. There is some savings. Then we had two items. The last one on page 3, the Finance Committee rose from closed session and is moved by Vivimo and second by Councillor Hines that the Finance Committee recommends the council waive the encroachment fee of $300 for outdoor patios for 2020 due to remedial sidewalk that is to be completed. So I guess on this, we don't have a written motion on it. So I'd ask, is there any discussion on this? Okay, I'm hearing no discussion on it. Is everybody okay with waiving of the encroachment fee? Or do you want?
Your worship?
Yes.
If I could just say that basically it is what I said in the planning, that because we weren't sure when the repairs to the deficiencies would be addressed downtown, and if the patio happened to be set up on there, they would have to take it down. So and not knowing actually when patios might be allowed, the owner was just getting things together for that, but who knows what the date would be that they would be able to even open, if at all. I'm assuming they will be able to, but.
Councillor Kula.
I can speak to that, and I will later in my report for Development Works, but I think we're only dealing with one application really at Coco Jerry's, and there is some major work to be done right nearby there on the sidewalk. So I think it will all gel once we get the word from the powers that be about the opening based on COVID. I think it will all gel very nicely for the start of summer, official start of summer. And I'll, like I said, I'll address that in my report.
I guess the comment on the table, I will comment on this a wee bit more. There is a fairly big crack in the sidewalk that has to be repaired there. It's right in front of his premise, and it's hard to know when that might even happen, when that repair will take place. So that'll be hopefully one of the first things that will be taken care of when they get into doing it. So I guess what we're asking here tonight, though, is everybody okay with waiving the fees?
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
Go with it.
No opposition? Okay. Then the next one is that the Finance Committee recommends the council approve a top-up provision for the one-time leak credit policy where a second leak has occurred and the adjustment would be greater than the initial credit that was processed, and further that the one-time leak policy be reviewed at the next Finance Committee meeting. Does anybody have anything to discuss on this? Councillor
Your
Hines.
worship, I think the treasurer is with us, yes. Is it possible for him to speak to that in regard to the, how the top up works, that it's, you know, there was a certain amount that it's already been paid? Is that possible?
Treasurer Riley? You're on mute.
The discussion that took place at the Finance Committee meeting centered around this was being a second request for a one-time leak adjustment, and the proposal that or the recommendation that came from the committee was to look at what the total leak adjustment would be this time around based on the leak that occurred compared to the one that occurred a number of years ago, and if it was a greater amount, pay the difference between what the calculated amount is this time versus what was paid a number of years ago. So it's in essence a top up. It's still considered a one time. So it pay the greater of the two of them, but the total is still equal to what the credit would be this time, which sounds a little confusing. But
Any questions or comments on that? Rebimo.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. As the treasurer said, the first leak happened some time ago, and then the other piece is that the policy is somewhat older, and we thought it was best to take a look at it. And we, you know, as well, one of the factors was that the owner seemed to have done their due diligence as quickly as they could. So we think the policy needs revisit and new language because the situations change. We've had a couple of requests, I guess 5 requests in the last year and a half, and each time it's quite different. So we just thought it was time to review the policy as well.
Any other questions or comments on that? So we're okay to proceed with that? Okay, the last thing on the thing is, the Finance Committee meeting was Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing about our borrowing limit. I think we've all heard of this a good number of times, but if you need further explanation, I'd have to call on Treasurer Riley again. All okay?
Sure, that would be good to have him explain that for the general public, I think.
in a nutshell, the annual repayment limit tells us is the amount of incremental borrowing the municipality could incur, so new debt going forward, and still be on side with the requirements of the Municipal Act, which is that you're restricted as to how much of your current taxes can go towards principal and interest debt repayments. The information in front of us is that our repayment limit is $3.1 million roughly. That would be, we could incur new debt as long as our principal and interest payments don't exceed 3.1 million, we don't go offside with the Municipal Act. To quantify that, if we could borrow money at 5%, we could borrow roughly $39 million at 5% and still be on side with the Act. Again, the current interest rates are significantly lower than 5%, so then the amount we could borrow at today's dollars or today's interest rates would be significantly higher. And conversely, if the interest rates start to go up again, you can borrow that much less. So it's tied to it's a calculation that's done based on the disposable income that the municipality has, tied to with the going interest rates at the time that you incur the debt.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none. All in favor? Carried. Okay. The EDO, or Economic Development Officer Charbonneau's report dated May the 22nd, 2020 concerning the Rural Economic Development RED program funding update be received. I further that Renfrew Town Council support the continuation of the Downtown Renfrew Connect, Direct, and Beautify project as proposed in this report. Over, please. Councillor Jamison, second by Councillor Sidney. I'd asked Clerk Bulmer if he could give us a short report on this.
All right, thank you. So this report arose from the last committee meeting of the Administration Economic Development Tourism Committee. As council may recall, back earlier this year, There was a report and bylaw went before council to enter into essentially a transfer payment agreement to accept funding in the amount of $2,700 of RED funding that would go towards a total cost project of $9,000, and basically in two components. One was public Wi-Fi and the other was wayfinding signage in the downtown. We have received the $2,700, signed the transfer payment agreement, but haven't embarked yet on the actual project. We have, however, got price quotes, and one of the major items, and the price quotes of this was just for the implementation, essentially the one-time costs. And we kind of had a good handle on that. What we didn't have a handle on was the cost of monthly, essentially the monthly internet bill, for sake of a better description. What happens is the public Wi-Fi would be its own standalone system using various routers that would service the Low Square area. It wouldn't come off our building, our existing internet. We feel that the existing internet in the building doesn't have the capacity, and we don't want to take a risk on jeopardizing internal services by sharing it with public access and all the issues around that. So we can certainly accommodate the cost. We've budgeted for them, the one-time costs, using the $2,700 and the $6,300 from the town through the economic development budget. It's the ongoing costs again, and they're estimated at approximately $4,000 per year, and that would be based on a 5-year agreement. So essentially, just like you would for your home service, we'd enter into an agreement with a provider, pay a monthly bill. That would be in the neighborhood of $300+ per month, and that would provide unlimited access for public Wi-Fi in an introductory area of Low Square and the sidewalks out front and perhaps Railway Avenue, etc. I think what we wanted to do is to readdress this with council to make sure they were comfortable. These annual amounts for operating would have to be accommodated in annual budgets. That's either within the existing envelope of spending or additional. So right now, I think we can accommodate it certainly in this year's budget as far as what expenses we'll be looking at for this year. And I think we're viewing this project as a stage one. We'll see how it goes. It also allows the municipality to use the public access for more communication and promotion. We essentially would have a splash page, is what it's called. So anybody that wants to access public Wi-Fi out front, be it at an event or just passing through, they would have to, they would see our public page first. We would put on some good information, and they would have to pass through that before getting access to the public site. And they'd have the ability to interact with the town, ask questions. We could even track as much as the amount of usage, the visitors. They could sign up for subscription-based alerts, things like that. So really the recommendation or the ask of council is, if they're in support of continuing with the RED project. The second component that I didn't speak much about is the wayfinding signage. There's no notable ongoing maintenance costs. Essentially, it'll deteriorate over time and need to be replaced like any other sign. And quotations have been obtained for it as well. But it's really the public Wi-Fi that has that significant enough annual ongoing operating costs. And just want to bring it to council's attention to make sure they're still, again, supportive of this. And I turn it over to certainly the committee, Chair Jemison, if she wanted to give any more background on as far as the committee support.
Okay, any questions, comments? Councillor Jemison, then Councillor Hines.
Yeah, I'm definitely in favor of this. I mean, I think having free Wi-Fi in the downtown area, like even though we're starting just at Low Square and Railway Avenue, it is the hub. And I just feel that this will definitely help the downtown core, the merchants down there, the businesses who are, really having a tough time. And this reopening, the way it's coming, I mean, it's going to affect a lot of people differently. And I just feel that this will help to draw more people downtown versus the box stores. And I mean, they'll survive because they're a big box store, but I just want to keep as many people in our downtown core as possible. That's just really important for Renfrew.
Councillor Hines. You're muted, Councillor Hines.
Sorry about that. Councillor Jameson has somewhat answered my question. It was just like, I was having a hard time getting the whole reasoning and gist of this. If there's tourism, is it economic development, what is it? And my second question would be, and I would assume somebody on the committee could answer that, or Clerk Bulmer, is that are there a lot of other municipalities around us that have done this?
Clerk Bulmer?
Yes, we are aware of quite several others. Some of them have their own downtown district, others specific public areas. But it is certainly getting to be a very common common approach of municipalities, again, just to further provide the ability for people visiting, especially downtowns, the access to public Wi-Fi. I know many of us, even if you visited other places, you're trying to find whether it's a store or restaurant, and you're looking for Wi-Fi, and it's not available unless you maybe slip into an establishment that does provide it. So.
Okay, great answer. Okay.
Revimo.
Yes, thank you. It's precisely as the clerk had said. It was to make the downtown core more livable and more of a recreation site as well, because you can access very quickly your email account while you're sitting there, or sites to get for entertainment or information. We've talked about the idea of phasing this out so that we move in both directions along Raglan Street. Again, with the long-term vision of people being able to circulate through the whole downtown with access to reliable broadband Wi-Fi. And then, we've always talked about the two streets on each side of Raglan being part of the downtown core and eventually becoming somewhat a mixture of commercial residential. And then that would also foster that. And the other thing that we talked about was if COVID did nothing else, it told us that you cannot have enough Wi-Fi for your residents or your visitors to access to getting information and keeping in touch and working from home or working from your car, whatever it is. So as fast as we can establish Wi-Fi hotspots or Wi-Fi system throughout our town, it's a benefit to our businesses, but also to our residents and to anybody that's passing through. So it's part of a longer term vision, and this is the first step.
Councillor Sidney.
Yeah, and I think it just goes to add that you can currently access Wi-Fi outside the Renfrew Library as well, which is very busy. So we've had people pull up in their cars and do a college exam using the Wi-Fi from the library. I just saw a gentleman the other day doing a book report standing against the steps. So it's something that I think a lot of people are gravitating to, and it just brings Renfrew up to kind of showing that we're heading into the new era of technology, but still trying to keep our downtown core the historical place that it is and be able to access both. And I think it'll be something that you'll see a lot of other municipalities that aren't doing it, and they're going to do it too. So I know the libraries is super busy.
I agree too. It's I think it's a necessary thing. Some of our stores downtown are getting into online stores now, which I think the Wi-Fi would be work into that very well. And the one thing I've said, and I've said it for a long time, is your downtown is the heartbeat of your town, and so I think anything we can do to support the downtown area, all better. And the benefit rubs off on everybody. If you have people coming to your downtown core, that means they're probably going to visit one of the other stores in town, whether it be one of the big box stores or a restaurant, no matter where it may be. So having that and building up a reputation for having that Wi-Fi, maybe a little better use of Low Square is, I think this can be in the long term a good benefit to the town of Renfrew. So there's no other comments. All in favor? Carried. Okay. The bylaw 37-2020 being a bylaw to establish the 2020 property tax rate to raise the general municipal levy and establish penalty and interest rates for non-payment of taxes on the due date be read a first time and deemed to have been read a second time. Mover, please. Councillor Jemison, second by Councillor Hines. Maybe turn this over to Treasurer O'Reilly for his comments on this.
It is very basically, on March the 12th, Council approved the 2020 operating and capital budgets, which required a levy increase of 2.4%. And to raise that locally of just over $8.8 million, the tax rates are as is outlined in bylaw 37-2020. As I mentioned, when the taxation bylaw was passed on March the 10th, as I said, we have to wait until the county passes certain tax ratios and other tax-related bylaws before the town of Renfrew can finalize theirs. And the county met and passed the necessary bylaws on the 29th of April. And that's why we're now in a position to bring forward the tax rates that are necessary for 2020 to raise the levy as approved by council previously.
Any questions or comments on this? Councillor Hines, you're on mute. You're on mute.
Sorry, I didn't want you to hear that buzzing, whatever that is. Could I just ask the treasurer to clarify when it comes to due dates for the taxes? We did make some decisions in regard to that. People are very good to pay them because they're due anyways, but could we just ask them to comment on that?
Yes, the one new line or one new paragraph in this bylaw compared to previous years is number 5 on the second page. It states, notwithstanding bylaw 30-2020, which was approved at council at the end of April, which waived the penalty and interest on the first 2 installments of taxes, then penalty and interest is going to be applied. So the notwithstanding means that council has approved that there will be no penalties and interest charged on the March 27th and May 27th property tax installments. And a determination will be made at a later date as to when those penalty and interest will be implemented. But basically, the notwithstanding clause says that although the bylaw allows for penalties to be charged and interest, they won't be until bylaw 30-2020 is revoked.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. Okay. Bylaw 37-2020 being a bylaw to establish the 2020 property tax rate to raise the general municipal levy and establish penalty and interest rates for non-payment of taxes on the due date be read a third time and be passed. Mover, please. Councillor Hines, second by Reeve Emo. Again, last chance. Any questions or comments?
No.
Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. The bylaw 38-2020 being a bylaw to provide for the levy and collection of special charges in respect of the downtown business improvement area be read a first time and deemed to have been read a second time. Over, please. Councillor Hines, second by Reeve Emo. Any questions or comments on this? Okay. Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. The bylaw 38-2020 being a bylaw provide for the levy on collection of special charges in respect of the downtown business improvement area be read a third time and be passed. Your last chance for any comments or questions. Councillor Hines. You're on mute again, Councillor Hines.
Sorry about that. It's a good thing, isn't it? Just for the viewing public or anyone that is tuning into this, that perhaps either the treasurer or the clerk could just highlight what this is. I mean, I know, and as do the other members of council, it relates to the BIA agreement that we have, but if they could just highlight that for them, I think that would be great.
Treasurer Riley, please.
Certainly, the BIA is by statute an arm's length entity of the municipality. They annually set what their budget requirements will be, and the levy is assessed against there's roughly 100 properties in the downtown area, that in the defined area of the BIA, that contribute towards the levy requirement. The budget request for 2020 is $65,000 once again. And when we factor out this bylaw provides that the maximum that any one property could pay towards that portion is $3,000. We have 3 properties in that category. And there's also a minimum charge of $25. We don't have any in that category any longer. So based on the total assessed commercial value in the area of just over $18.5 million, that's how we calculate the rate that's necessary to generate the $65,000 levy for the BA to spend in accordance with the budget that was submitted with the request back earlier this year.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Carried. I'd like to go back a wee bit on finance. I have this sitting here and I forgot to bring it up. Treasurer Riley had distributed a report. I don't know if you can see this very good. Basically on from all the departments as to their budgets, etc. This has been sent out to everybody. If there was any questions on this, we'd have to refer to independent or the different department heads to do a bit of an explanation. So I'm sure you've all read it. If there was any specific questions, please direct them to the department head. Hearing none, I'm very pleased with this report. This is something that I kind of brought forth maybe a couple of months ago, that we start to get this up to date. And with this COVID-19 going on, I'm sorry to say, but I think probably in another 3 months or so, we're going to have to see this report again, because things seem to change pretty darn quick as we keep moving on this. So anyway, what a very good report and great information for all council members. Anyway, so if there's no questions on this, I'll file that for now. Okay, don't need any motion on it. It was for information only, really. Okay, that the minutes of the Fire Emergency Management Committee meeting held May the 19th be received. Mover, please. Councillor Hines, second by Councillor Colas. Turn it over to Councillor Hines for the report.
All right, we did not have a meeting in March or April because the fire chief was pretty busy with COVID-19 and the emergency group that meets all the time. And we have just kind of, our last meeting, which was in May 19th, was via Zoom, as we're doing tonight. So now that we're up and running in that, it's a lot easier to have those meetings. So the first, in regard to the new and unfinished, we looked at the minutes of February 19th and accepted those. They've already been to council. In regard to new and unfinished business, the chief did review the 2 months that we didn't have a chance to review. That's March and April, in regard to the department activity during COVID-19 and what operational changes had to be in place at that time. So is it possible that I could turn it over to Chief Walsh at this time, just to review those numbers for you in regard to the 2 reports?
Absolutely, Chief Wells.
Okay, for March and April, and I will tell you that they are at the end of your report. The one for the activity report for March and the activity report report for April.
Chief Welch?
Well, we can always come back to that if he's elsewhere, or maybe he's just not being able to connect. We can come back to that. They are there, but it is somewhat self-explanatory, but I think it's important for the public to hear that. So whenever he can tune in with us, that would be great. He's just actually disappeared off the screen. Okay, so moving right along, we'll come back to that, but we reviewed the impacts of COVID-19 on the fire department, and that is the report that was summarized for council of the extra expenditures that had to take place, and basically financially where we were at. And we also looked at the lines in the fire budget that at this point were not required to be spent. And for example, attendance at conferences and training and such, because of COVID-19, that has been canceled. So those are still unspent in the budget at this time, and the Finance Committee continues to review each department, as does the departments. We had a vacancy as the CEMC position. That's on our emergency management team, and that is the coordinator position, which previously was held by Lane Claroux, who has moved on to another municipality. And we did, the chief did send out a call for anybody in the municipality that might be interested in serving on that role. We only received one application so far, so he's going to have a look at that and report back to us in June. In regard, as you know, in the future year, the proposal of the new replacement vehicle for the ladder truck is on our 10-year capital forecast. And the chief is just putting together now the request for proposal. And although that's on there, be assured that a report with all that documentation will come before council so that we can make a learned decision on that, whether we are able to delay it or what date we need to possibly get things rolling for that, because it does take a little while for it to be built and shipped to us. And we did talk some in regard to scheduled vacations, because at this time in the fire department, as in other departments, people have not been taking much vacation. They've been dealing with COVID-19. So, and what the municipality needs to work through at this time. So I see Chief Welsh is back, perhaps. So if I could turn it over to him to review those two reports. Hello.
Huh.
Sorry,
about that, folks.
We disconnected with you there for a minute.
Yeah, the minute I went to move the mouse to get the reports that you asked for, it froze up. So what I'd like to do, the specific activities are alterations to our operational procedures when it came to the onset of COVID-19, and our effects in March were a reduction in the number of prevention and public relation activities that we were able to provide. Obviously, social distancing and preventative measures to ensure the minimization of the spread resulted in the fact that we wouldn't have gatherings. That same effect was the fact that we could no longer do our volunteer training in-house. What we required them to do then is do bi-weekly training at home, or basically take a topic at home and deal with that. We changed our crew response activities when it came to ensuring their safety and the safety of those that we are protecting in the service by keeping social distancing as our maximum safety measure, where we were involved with the paramedic services for locked door entries. If they weren't able to provide us with a level of PPE that they had, which ours was, we had a very short supply, and we still have a short supply of PPE, then we would only be providing them with access to the building and to the patient. We would not be providing any medical assistance. The fire hall has been locked down since the date of the pandemic announcement and the emergency declaration by the province. We've also used social distancing when it has come down to the circumstances of assisting our neighboring departments, whether it be through their SCBA refills or whether it be through assisting them with washing of their bunker gear through our new facility that we purchased this past year. Water sales hadn't been a big issue. We're starting to get into that now. We've got a protocol available for increasing our level of safety, but there has been a potential loss or reduction in our revenues from that. And one of the biggest circumstances that we have based our developmental program on is the access to fire college courses through the Ontario Fire Marshal's office in Gravenhurst. Those courses have continued to be suspended on a month-by-month basis. They've now been canceled for the month of June, which affects our ability to have our personnel go to the college and receive the higher level of certification and training that the college is able to provide us beyond what we do in our in-house training and maintenance activities. From a call perspective, both for the month of April and for the month of March, we have been blessed. As far as a comparison to some of the larger communities in the province, we have not seen the significant increase in fires in our jurisdiction, nor have we seen some of the associated loss of life that we've seen across the province. Both April, we had one fire, and in March we've had no fires. So we've seen a positive for our citizens and an increased safety for our citizens while they continue to operate and try and function from their homes. We did see some increase in the April. At the bottom of the column, you'll see other false alarms, LDR. Those are locked door rescues. Those are specific assistance required by the paramedics to gain access to patients. In all circumstances, those were false alarms in as much as we arrived on scene and we weren't required to provide access. Either it was a false alarm that the alarm company had generated, that people had not answered the phone when the alarm and the monitoring companies had called them, or they were circumstances where the patient was able to answer the door or someone else had gained access to the door for us. So that basically is a summary of the different calls. We did have one auto extrication call to Horton and one to Admaston in each one of the 2 months. And as you can see by the number of hours, despite the inability to gather for training in March, we still had a significant number of hours. We did have our recertification for first aid and defibrillation in the month of March prior to the pandemic taking effect. And we've seen a little bit of a downturn in some of the other activities, most notably public relations and education and inspections have taken a downturn through April as to we're just not able to go into the buildings and provide some of that education that we normally would. And we don't have the opportunity through some of the larger events such as the home show where we are able to pass out our good prevention and public education messaging. So I think I hope that captures everything. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to try and field them.
Okay, any questions or comments? I just had one, Councillor Hines, I believe you said ladder truck. I think it's a pumper truck if I'm not mistaken.
Sorry, what did you just ask me?
I think you, in your comment, you said we're looking into the future purchase of a ladder truck. I believe it's a pumper truck if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I just want to be clear on that because we just bought a ladder truck not too many years ago.
One of each.
Anyway.
It's a
Okay.
$500,000 difference too.
Yeah.
Any other comments? Hearing none. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay. The Director Hills report dated May the 21st, 2020 concerning the construction of a storage garage be received. Further, the Renfrew Town Council authorized the Parks, Recreation, and Facilities staff to construct a storage garage behind the Henry Eady building for an amount not to exceed $60,000. Mover, please. Councillor Sedney, second by Councillor Koulis. Turn it over to Director Hill for his report, please. You're on mute, Director Hill.
As part of the capital budget for 2020, we had presented to put an addition on the Henry Eady building and do some needed repairs to the Henry Eady building. In consultation with the staff, it was felt that a storage building would be better served adjacent to the property. And as a result, we've talked to the staff about the opportunity of championing that project themselves. So the staff are excited about the opportunity. We've costed the project for the supply of material and certain components of the build that we would not be able to do. And we're looking at, completing the work at, our anticipation is to complete the work at around $40,000, saving some monies to allow some of the repairs to the Henry Eady, and also providing the much needed storage that the department needs for our equipment.
Okay, any questions or comments on this? Councillor Sidney, then Revimo.
I just want to commend the department and the staff and the leadership for, we did approve this in the capital budget by looking outside the box and doing it as much as we can in-house, utilizing the skills of our employees. The cost savings of $20,000 is quite significant, especially at the time we're in. And then that some of that money can be deferred to other repairs and stuff. So, I think at a time when, everything is kind of a little bit uncertain, to be able to utilize the staff to save some monies, I think is a great way to show that we're actually looking at other ways and better ways to deal with taxpayers' dollars. So I thank you for that.
Revimo.
Thank you. I agree, and I'm glad to see that the roof and the soffit at the Henry Eady building are going to be addressed as well. Quick question. I probably missed this, but how many doors are we are talking about? A 60 by 40? Would that be 4 doors?
No, the staff we were looking at 4 doors. The staff have actually chosen to go with 3 and leaving the far end for storage with no doors, just to come in and store some of our equipment at the far end.
Thank you. And just a follow up, if I might. So that's not a drive-through option. It's in and out.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Correct.
Councillor Hines.
Yeah, I just want to say that I think this is a great, I know the recreation staff do take really good care of the equipment out there, and we have quite a bit of equipment, so to be able to put it in where it's out of the elements, that's really great. And the amount of storage required out there, I think this is going to accommodate it very well. So hats off to you for doing that.
Okay, any other questions or comments? All in favor? Carried. Okay. That the minutes of the Development Works Committee meeting held May the 12th, 2020 be received. Mover, please. Councillor Koulis, second by Councillor Evans. Turn it over to Councillor Koulis for a report.
Okay. First up was was dealing with a complaint on 8th Street concerning traffic and road conditions, type of traffic and that sort of thing. So we did install a radar traffic counter on the street to get some data. We have requested further enforcement from the police. They have communicated that there's been minimal traffic violations and no collisions reported in that area. We have since then, under the direction of Director Aslan, contacted MTO. They have too come back with a similar response in that there was no concerns on their part. We did receive a building permit, building report from our CBO. Of course, permits are down, obviously, because of COVID-19. One permit was issued in April. But the department is optimistic that moving forward, we have currently 15 applications that are waiting to be lifted after COVID restrictions are lifted as well. There has been some staff changes, obviously, in the hours that the public works staff work. At one time, early on in this pandemic, they were splitting the day between very early in the morning and later in the evening, and now they are back to a single day shift, staggering their start and finish times, and of course their lunch times. Tourist Booth Road, I think we're familiar with that out. The road that's to be built to accommodate the sold property to Farrell. The road will be constructed off of O'Brien Road, of course, for the new O'Farrell property. We have not acquired any final design yet, but we will very shortly. And all future lots along this road will be serviced so that sale of these lots will be exponential. The director is going to work with the clerk's department to provide an on-site project presentation to council. The naming of the road will be Reeve Smith Road. Desired name has been approved by the county. The clerk's department is bringing a dedication to public highway and road naming in the very near future for that piece of road. Some of the capital projects, Stewart Street funding has been announced and approved. Design is complete, so that will go to tender May 26th. So that's good news for the major entrance into town from Highway 60. There's been some land acquisitions, particularly on the corner of Stewart Street and Bruce Street. From Rocky Mountain House, the owners of that facility, and also from the Tim Hortons Wendy's property as well for a wider turning radius there. There's going to be, of course, a multi-use path run up the west side of Stewart Street, and there will be an added crosswalk at Arthur Street. With the, if you will, the wigwag idea that we have on Raglan Street South with the lights to accommodate crossings at that area. There will be a lot of sanitary upgrades and so on that need to be completed along that stretch of Stewart Street over the next 2 years. That's a 2-year project that will begin at Bruce and go to the town limits near Pro Tire or Candilabo's business in the first year, and in the second year it will proceed down from Bruce Street to the bridge. There will be some sanitary work at the bridge probably later this year as well. Empire Ross Reconstruction Award has been awarded to BEI. And that will start very shortly, actually, that work. County Road 52, Raglan Street South, that goes to tender on the 12th of June, so a couple of weeks from now. Construction is set to proceed in the summer, of course, of this year, probably July before that gets started. McAndrew Street's final design is being done as we speak. The tender date is not known yet. We're dealing with water tower issues inside the water tower. There's a stirring mixing system in there that has been dismantled inside because of it freezing and ice buildup and so on. So we're dealing with the company that installed that in 2012 to see what kind of compensation we can get from them. Monroe Harry Street, that is we're awaiting results actually from the Green Stream ICIP stream. We have some annual bridge inspections to do, or biannual actually, the bridge over the Boncha River and also the swinging bridge. And the thing everybody's waiting on, the downtown deficiencies update. We have finally come to an agreement with the construction company that did our Raglan Street South project, BEI, and their subcontractors that handled the cement work, sidewalks, and the landscaping asphalt portion of those deficiencies. So the bottom line is they are going to come good for their repairs because of funds we have held back, which is only normal in these situations. Mid-June is where where we feel we will have our sidewalks done. As early as the end of this week or first of next week, some of the sidewalks will be cut. So there will be the merchants on Main Street and the public will experience some dust and noise and so on as they cut those panels out to be pulled out of the, they are all marked. If anyone has walked Raglan Street South recently, you will see where the panels have been marked to be replaced. There's a fairly substantial repair needed in front of the community living building. And of course, that's just a little bit east of Coco Jerry's, as we talked about earlier this evening. That is a sewer problem that has been disconnected some time ago and has caused somewhat of a problem underneath the sidewalk, and it's heaved very, 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 very highly there this spring. So anyway, that has to be done almost immediately as they start this excavation. The landscaping part of the thing will be started in early June, which is next week. They will start by replacing the dead trees and the trees that were damaged last year. So that will start next week. And also following that will be all the flower beds will be, and some of them have already been stirred up, if you will, but they will be all replanted in the next 2 weeks. The final deadline for all of these deficiencies to be done, and I mean done, is June 30th. But they will be at it within days of this meeting, starting probably this Thursday, Friday, and into Monday, Tuesday. You'll see quite a bit of action on Main Street between cement and soil and trees and landscaping and flowers and whatnot. So you will see a lot of that change over the next 2 to 3 weeks. We are not very far from the end of June, although I would have sooner seen this done a lot sooner than this. We do have some street sign poles, bike racks, stop sign poles. Those sign poles are still not installed. We still have, you may have noticed some stop signs that are in blue barrels of cement. So the very, very unfinished look. These poles are now about to arrive. They've been slowed down in shipping because of this virus. These signs come from someplace in the States, and they have been held up coming into Canada. But we're told that they are in Canada now, and we will have them very shortly. So I would assume that we will have those as well installed in June. Everything should be done by the end of June, completely. there was some asset management condition assessments done for some of our water and sewer, well, all our water and sewer plants and our low lift pumping stations and so on. And that has been completed. We did talk about the 4-wheel drive backhoe that we are currently assessing as far as replacement is concerned. The current one we have is not being used because it it requires a lot of repairs, and the clutch and so on is there. Clutch and many other things are in a bad state of repair. We did go over our financials for the time up until this meeting, based on COVID-19. The revenues, of course, are down like they are all throughout the corporation, it seems. There has been some concern brought forward from the Human Resources Committee regarding our accumulation of overtime. I believe we're going to speak to that again later this evening. Municipal parking lots are all about to be paved very shortly. We did put a new fencing system in around the one beside the town hall. Already it's done and ready for asphalt. And I don't believe, oh yes, we did, although it wasn't at this time known, but we have been able to make an offer that I believe will be accepted shortly on our municipal garage land. That will be coming to council very shortly. That's it.
You're both muted.
You're all shut down.
We're all muted.
There you are.
Your worship, you're muted. Okay, there we go.
Right.
Yes?
Yes, Councillor Ryan.
Okay. Yeah, just a few questions. Councillor Koulis, what a big meeting and lots of work done.
Yep.
Just a comment on that radar sign on Lisgar Avenue. I think that it is great to have that out there. It does kind of just remind you that it is important to that, and I am glad that you had a look at 8th Street. Just in regard to the coming forward of the Tourist Booth Road, my understanding was some time ago, and I had discussed this with the mayor, that, and is that what you're saying, Director Aslan, is to work with the clerk to provide an on-site project presentation to council?
Yes.
Okay, perfect, perfect. And just in regard to the fencing at the town hall parking lot, whoever did the fence, and I take it that was town staff, did an excellent job. It looks great.
Yes, it does.
And, I didn't catch who you said is looking after the deficiencies. Is it the town that's looking after that, or the contractor?
The contractor has agreed to uphold the agreement and repair the deficiencies through their subcontractors. There's a subcontractor that did all the landscaping for BEI, and also a different subcontractor that did the cement work. Those two companies are back to repair their deficiencies.
Okay.
Satisfy the contract.
Okay. Okay. That is great. I think that's all the questions I had at this point. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Sidney.
Do we get, Councillor Coles, do we get a say in the landscape material they're going to use, like the flowers, the trees, the shrubs? Because there was a lot of discussion on the ones that were used last year about how they didn't look right, didn't look nice enough, wasn't really what we were wanting. Are they just going to replace them with what we got last year, just new ones, or do we actually get to say we don't like that, we want something different?
That might be a question better answered by Director Aslan.
Yes, it is a good question. Under the contract obligations, essentially the plants that they're replacing are the plants that did not survive. So they are intending to replace with the same plants, and to change plants from one type to another would require a change order. At this point in the contract, we're just trying to get the contractor's obligations over with, and then the town will assume the responsibility for those beds into the future, and then we can plan over time what we feel is most appropriate. But from a contractor perspective, they pretty much have to replace the plants with the same plants that did not survive for contract purposes.
Thanks.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Further to Councillor Hines' inquiry about having seen a plan or something about out at the tourist bureau there, and this new road being built. I don't think I get into the minutes of the meeting, but I did suggest, and I'd like to carry forward with it, that we council be invited to a site visit out there so that we can see it, face to face with what's there, and have a good look at it, because this is a fairly major undertaking of the town, and I think it's important that we all totally understand what's going on there. So I hope that somehow we can get that site visit arranged. That's the only comment I have.
That would be great.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, if I may add, Your Worship, that was discussed, and yes, that is the plan. I know the road has been approved by council, but we would like to have council out there physically to see where this road will actually go, along with paper design and so on in hand, so we get a better idea of where this will eventually end up, and what our future plans are, basically.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none. All in favor? Carried. Okay, the Director Aslan's report dated May the 22nd, 2020, concerning the building condition assessments be received. Further, that Renfrew Town Council authorized staff to retain Morrison Hirschfield to complete the building condition assessments of the water filtration plant, low lift pump house, and water pollution control plant at a cost of $30,156.58 plus disbursements inclusive of non-refundable HST. Over, please. Councillor Evans, second by Councillor Hines. Turn it over to Director Aslan for the report, please.
Okay, thank you and good evening. This is one of the items that was in the Development Works Committee minutes. As Council is aware of, the town is undertaking a substantial asset management study, along with other related studies, including development charges, community benefits charge, water licensing. There is a requirement under OREG 588/17 that the asset management program is to include core infrastructure, and the deadline for those inclusions are July 1st, 2021. So the town, unfortunately, in the past has done a lot of work on building condition assessments for municipal buildings. The water plant, the low lift pump house, and the wastewater plant have not been done. And the buildings were quite new, but they were built. The sewage plant, for instance, was new in 2009, so it's already 10 years old, surprisingly. So this building condition assessment, or these building condition assessments, will feed into the asset management plan in the same format as all the other building condition assessments we've done, and go a long way to satisfying our requirement to have an asset management plan for the core infrastructure. Now this is the building envelope only. The contents of the plants themselves, the internal machinery, will be assessed and included under work of Aqua. That is part of the asset management related studies project. So it's appropriate that these funds be taken from the water and wastewater funds for capital works related to those plants.
All right. Any questions or comments? Okay. Hearing none, then all in favor? Opposed?
Thank you very much.
Okay, carried. Okay. Okay, we're going to be going into closed session. Do we want to go into close and take a 5-minute, or do we want to keep going? Don't make any difference to me.
I'd like 5 minutes.
Okay, well, we'll go into close first, as we did before, because that way Clerk Mulmer can quit recording.
Okay.
The Renfrew Town Council convened in closed session for the following matters pursuant to Section 239 of the Municipal Act 2001. Pursuant to Section 239(2)E of the Municipal Act 2001, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting municipality as a local board or a local board. More specifically, discuss a matter pertaining to the management operation of the Renfrew Innovation Center. Pursuant to Section 239(2)B of the Municipal Act, personal matters about an identical individual, including municipal or local board employees. More specifically, to discuss the functioning of the senior management team during the COVID-19 pandemic. Need a mover, please. Okay, sorry. Councillor Cool, a second by Councillor Sidney. Okay, we are now in close. We'll take 5 minutes and we'll be back at 25 to 9. It will reconvene. Thank you.
Okay, for those viewing, we just returned into open session. Thank you.
Okay, we're now open again and back to business. So any new or unfinished business? Councillor Hines.
Just one really quick point that I wanted to bring up. With the provincial COVID openings or being allowed to open, the Renfrew Tennis Club was able to open as of last Tuesday, but putting together the rules that need to be in place to deal with COVID-19 and working with a great group of people at Recreation. And I would have said that before the meeting if we had done new and unfinished business then, and I say it now. We were only able to open on Saturday with Recreation's help. We do have a lot of rules in place, and that goes back to my comment about relating to the Premier's thoughts on it should be a provincial thing, because when you actually, it's a great thing to say you can open tennis courts and fields, but there are a lot of rules that go along with it and how people will disinfect what they touch, etc. So the tennis club, with the help of Recreation, has put together how that operates. And if you ever have a moment to go on to the Renfrew Tennis Club site, you will see that, and that will probably have to happen for all of the different events that open up in the future. Having said that, I think that it is important that we would pop off a letter to the Premier, if folks are in agreement with that, that we aren't following along where Kingston is thinking that having a flexible, having local flexibility as opposed to a provincial opening or closing of what's happening. I think that's very confusing for the public, and I think as a province we need to know what we're doing. And I will again say it's a lot of work to just get back to whatever you might call normal.
Victor Hill, you are muted too as well.
Concur with Councillor Hines. I had a discussion today with our inspector of our Renfrew County District Health Unit, who questioned our opening of the skateboard park. And I guess my response to this individual was, what are every other municipality doing in the province? And her response was that each, not only health unit, each inspector will deal with it differently, which I find very disturbing. And as a result, I've responded by email to this individual, and I've CC'd the chair of Parks, Rec, and Facilities on the email response, because I'm very disappointed in the fact that not all of my peers in Renfrew County were contacted who are currently operating a skateboard park to see what their plan is. And yet the town of Renfrew's, and there was reference made to, if we don't adhere to their requests, is that we fear being sued. So I've asked for clarification. I'm very disappointed. I think the inspector knows my disappointment. I've sent an email this evening and asking for additional questions. I've reached out to my peers across the province this evening before this council meeting to ask them, are they operating their skateboard park, what their plan is? Have they been contacted by their inspector? So I just had to provide that feedback of what's happening behind the scenes. I agree with what Councillor Hines has said, that we need to be united across the province. The unfortunate part is I don't think the province is united. And that's where I find it very disturbing that the town of Renfrew is being questioned about our operations. I take offense to it considerably, seeing that I sit on the ATAC committee of the Ontario Rec Facilities Association. I feel that myself and staff are doing our level best to make sure that people are safe. People are back enjoying recreational activities. And as a result, I expect to get answers tomorrow or the next day, because it's not something I've taken lightly. And to be accused of what I was accused of today, I'm going to follow it up further tomorrow to get the answers I need to make sure that I'm doing what the province feels has to be done at all facilities, not just the town of Renfrew's facilities.
I could just comment on that. You say that direction came from an inspector from Renfrew County Health Unit?
That's correct.
Have you made contact with the director there, or whatever they call themselves, the chief medical officer, or anybody like that?
No, the individual had suggested that if I wished to talk to somebody, her superiors, that I was welcome to. You know, she was the staff member that contacted myself as a staff member. I think this is something that can be resolved amongst staff. But I want answers to what other municipalities are doing, not you must do this or we're going to have to shut you down, or, you know, I want clear direction from the health unit of what other municipalities are required to do or what their plan is. Because again, I think that our staff are doing the best that we can to provide recreational opportunities to the residents of the town of Renfrew within the guidelines of the province.
Mhm.
Councillor Sidney.
Yeah, just a real quick thing, because I know everybody wants to go home or go to bed, I guess, because you're at home. Further to that, when Director Hill and I spoke last Thursday, I actually contacted him because I saw Mayor Tory's press conference in Toronto saying that they were going to open 5 skateboard parks and BMX tracks on Friday of last week. So I contacted Director Hill to say, hey, apparently they were good to go, so let's get ours open and stuff like that. And then to see this email today was very discouraging and disheartening. So anyway, that's kind of how the ball rolls. That's all.
I'm not sure how that plays out. Like you take Toronto and Ottawa, they're basically a unit of their own. They don't have no upper tier or lower tier. So I don't know if they can maybe make their own rules somewhat easier. From what my position on this is, whatever the provincial guidelines are, that's what we should follow. And if the provincial guidelines say we can open, then I presume we can open. I mean, that's I think the health units take direction from the province as well, if I'm not mistaken. So anyway, I don't have an answer for you, but certainly help you with that problem. You know, if you want to contact me tomorrow.
No, and the health unit's very clear in their email that they have no issues with this opening, that, you know, we're permitted to. It's just we need an approved plan. And I guess my question is, I don't have supervision, or my statement, I apologize, I don't have supervision of the facility 24 hours a day, so I don't know how I can deal with the ensuring that there's the 2 meters of separation between the participants at our facilities. I don't have video surveillance. I said, short of me contacting the OPP to have periodic checks, there's not much else I can do. You know, I guess I will have to express our cleaning procedures and what have you to disinfect the facilities on a daily basis. But again, for me to disinfect a facility after every use is near impossible for me, because kids come and go from that facility throughout the day, all day. And I feel we are doing the best we can to service the residents of the town of Renfrew and keeping them as safe as we can. But I guess the other option is we shut everything down and wait till the province lifts all requirements on public properties or public facilities, because it is frustrating, very frustrating.
Councillor Hines.
Director Hill, you are okay with what recreation has done, or what tennis has done. We have a plan, and I've kept you guys in the loop about that. So, I mean, if the inspectors were to challenge you on that, and it's a whole different thing than the skateboard park. I mean, we have a scheduling system that we know who comes and goes there, and we have signage up. We paid for signage to say, you know, you have to wipe down the gate when you touch it, and the top of the net, people have to bring their own balls, the whole 9 yards of it. But it's a different thing than the skateboard park for sure. And I think that you're doing the best you can out there.
That's exactly the way we feel. But again, I'm sourcing out and trying to secure some approved plans across the province. The frustration this evening has been, I've contacted 4 of my peers in the entire province, not just in Renfrew County, and all have told me that they've opened their skate parks with no approved plans to their health unit. So it's frustrating.
This whole darn virus is frustrating, and it takes you away from your normal way of thinking and puts different types of stresses on us, and just not a good thing. And I have a little bit of a worry we're a long piece away from getting through it yet, but we'll wait and see what happens. You know, I did have one item I want to talk about a wee bit under new business. It's basically it's the makeup of our agendas. Now, the clerk's department through Clerk Bulmer, they get minutes from all the different meetings, and they have to sit there and they have to put an agenda together. And so sometimes, and I've had some discussion with Clerk Bulmer on this, they have to decipher what way we do it. Do I do it this way or I do it that way? And that can be a complication. And all of us when we sit at a committee meeting, how many times have we said, well, do we need a motion for this, or do we just give direction, whatever? So I think we need to be very clear of the direction we give the clerk as far as putting an agenda together. It's just a big deal. We think, you know, we take it for granted. I know I have. It's like going to the tap and getting a glass of water. It just seems to always been there, so consistent. But anyway, it's there is some frustration there, and I think we just all do our part a little bit better. Things will work out okay, and hopefully that you know, we can carry on with. I like the old way we've been doing it. We've been doing it the same way for many years, and we've been successful. But it's got now we got so much experience on our council that we get into situations and we get talking about all kinds of things, and you know, so at the end of the day, then we say, okay, is that a motion? Is that a recommendation? Etc. So I think we got to kind of really look at that ourselves as you know, as experienced counselors, and hopefully we can you know, sort that out and make his job somewhat easier, because we have so much going on, and this is what happens when you get really busy in any business. But in this particular business, we have been busy. We've been busy for 5.5 straight years, almost nonstop. If we don't get one thing, finished until we have another thing on the go, and that's been the way it's been. And so we got to remember too that we have, you know, like all our department heads, we've put a lot of pressure on them in the last while, and you know, the last 5 years, as I would say. And anyway, we've had a lot of results. So at the end of the day, though, the agenda is my thing right now that I'd like to see us really pay some attention to, and even have a conversation with Clerk Bulmer if we have to, as to how these things should come forward. Other than that, I have nothing. Review.
Just a quick question. I think Councillor Hines was talking about some kind of a letter to the province, and you know, one of the challenges for local authorities is responding to how quick the province makes announcements. They make them on a Thursday, expect things to happen on a Friday. And I'll bring to your attention they announced last week, I think it was, sorry, the long weekend late Thursday afternoon, that they're opening campgrounds. So everybody's running around trying to get their campgrounds open, and they didn't have the problems, but at that point hadn't released the criteria, and it didn't really come out until mid to late Friday, and it wasn't entirely clear. So a lot of us spent most of Friday and Saturday on the phone with various owners trying to find the right information, and then coordinating with the health unit to get it organized. So it, you know, I think if there's a letter that goes to the province, I think, you know, we really need to stress, don't announce something on a Thursday afternoon at 4 o'clock, because we don't have the capacity to respond by Friday night. That it has to be earlier in the week, or even a week and a half in advance, saying, you know, on the 7th of June, this is what we're intending to do, because it really creates, first of all, it creates confusion. Then secondly, a little bit of resistance, and then a whole pile of resentment from either the operators or the public. And I don't think that's doing anybody any good. So if we're sending a letter about this, then, you know, I think we need to stress a few other points with it.
Okay. Is there anything else? Okay. Hearing nothing.
I will, just to remind, never dealt with the motion for the out of closed session for the support of sending the RIC letter.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, we need that motion. You have that motion?
Yeah, well, it's just simply that Renfrew Town Council authorized the draft letter to the RIC dated, I can't remember the date, be sent. I don't think be sent by registered mail to all members of the Renfrew Industrial Commission. Unless you want anything additional to that, that would just be as simple as that.
And that copy of that motion will go with it?
If that's the wish, that's certainly. The other part was that you had mentioned recorded vote. So if you still want to record vote, let me know, but we'll need a mover and a seconder for that motion.
Okay. I'd like to do a recorded vote personally, so I do need a mover and a seconder to send this letter out. We've emailed, seconded by Councillor Jameson. Again, so we'd ask for a recorded vote.
Okay, so we voted the recorded vote on the motion just read. Reeve Emon,
In favor.
Councillor Koulis,
In favor?
Councillor Evans, Councillor Evans,
You're muted, Councillor Evans.
you want to? Oh, sorry.
In favor.
Councillor Hines,
In favor?
Councillor Jamison,
In favor.
Councillor Sydney,
In favor?
Mayor Edie.
I'm in favor.
Motion is carried 7-0. Thank you.
Anything else I forgot? I found this meeting much easier to handle. I could see everybody for most of the time, and my voice was getting there a lot quicker instead of the 15-second delay. So it was a much better meeting. Okay, the bylaw 34/2020, being a bylaw, confirm the proceedings of the council, the corporation, and town of Renfrew at the meeting held May the 26th, 2020, you read it first time and deemed to have been read a second time. Mover, please. Councillor Johnson, second by Councillor Evans. All in favor? Carried. The bylaw 34/2020 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings, council, corporation, and town of Renfrew at the meeting held May the 26th, 2020, be read a third time and be passed. A mover, please. Councillor Sidney, seconded by Councillor Koulis. All in favor? We do now adjourn. It is exactly 1 minute to 10. Thank you very much. Have a good warm day tomorrow.